Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Briar Harvey. This is the Neurodiversity Media Network, and I am here today with my fabulous friend, Megan Hale. We've known each other for a few years now, haven't we?
Yeah,
In person, at least. It old friendship in internet years
I
now.
know.
If you haven't met Megan with me before, she is one of my absolute favorite financial people, and she has an incredible new thing that she is building and working on, and we will talk about that. But today, we wanted to have a little conversation about navigating the highs and lows because that's a big deal when things shift, when, you know, recessions never happen or whatever. Like, who knows what's going on in the world? And sometimes we don't hit the mark.
Yeah,
So, we were talking about this at dinner a couple of weeks ago and decided to have this conversation here on the air. And I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here too. I think this conversation is going to be really good and also really needed because regardless of what's happening in the economy always is going to go through seasons, right? We also go through seasons in our business too. And all of us, every single entrepreneur I know, has a time period in which maybe their revenue dips for a multitude of reasons. And so I think having tools and having a conversation around how to navigate those shifts is going to be really, really important.
So, let's start at the top. What does it mean when you have an unexpected dip in your business?
Well, I think that can happen for a couple of reasons. I think for some of us, we have these projections, like we have some plans of what we think is going to happen the next month, and that doesn't end up happening for a multitude of reasons. And so, if we were planning on an influx of cash and we're making decisions based on an influx of cash, and then that influx of cash is lower or doesn't happen at all, then that's going to create a very unique situation that we're having to navigate both emotionally, our mindset, and also financially. But I also think we can go through seasons where an offer was really performing well, and for some particular reason it stops performing as well as it did. Maybe our messaging is kind of growing stale with our audience. Like there's all different reasons of why our businesses can have a dip in revenue. And we can also have shifts to our capacity just from life doing life. And that can impact our ability to show up and market our offers and all of those things, right? So I think it's not if a dip in revenue will happen. I think it's when a dip in revenue will happen. And sometimes those dips can be intense and sometimes they can just be little blips, you know? And I think that's going to depend and vary from business to business.
So, the obvious answer is cash cushion, and everyone should have one. And what if you don't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. What if you don't? So I think that's a couple of different things. Like, one, what kind of systems can we create that is going to help you build up a cash cushion to help you navigate some of those lower revenue months? And in the likelihood that you don't have that cash cushion, you're going to need to be able to scale down your expenses as much as possible until that cash flow situation rectifies itself. And so I think that it's like both and, right? How can we create that cushion for ourselves so we have that safety net when we need it? Even if we don't want to need it, it's there. And also knowing how to scale some things down that will help protect the cash flow that is there, that is coming into the company.
So, I know this is highly variable, but like, do you have any best practices for cash cushion and what that should structurally look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is going to depend a lot on your risk tolerance. For some entrepreneurs who might have a lower risk tolerance, that means that your cash cushion is likely going to have to be higher because you don't like risk. So you're trying to mitigate how tight things might feel at any given time. For those of us who have a higher tolerance for risk, then the cushion might not need to be as great. I would say the standard gold practice answer here is for you to have like 3 months of your expenses saved up. And that takes a lot of time for sure. For businesses to stock that up, even if you're doing it in your personal life with your personal finances, that takes quite a bit of time just to build up those cash reserves. So for me personally, I don't really like having 3 months. It feels like that cash is just kind of sitting there where it could be leveraged in other ways, like investing in more opportunities for growth, things like that. But I definitely like to have at least 2 months saved up to cover all my team expenses and my operational costs and then my salary. So if I have all of those things covered, I feel pretty solid and secure. But this is really it's going to depend on like what your nervous system regulation is, right? And the things that are going to make you feel the most secure.
And that's so much of the work, right? Is figuring out how to feel safe with
Yes.
money.
Most definitely. I think a lot of us, we have this assumption that if we're making more money, then that's the thing that's going to help us create a sense of safety. And making more money will create you feeling more financially supported. Okay. Because there will be more money available, but that does not necessarily translate into you feeling safe and secure. And I think that boggles a lot of people's minds. It's like, wait, what do you mean? It's like, I see clients all the time that they're earning more money than they ever have, and they still don't feel any more safe or secure with money, because money doesn't necessarily just work on that one plane. It's like we have to do like the inner attunement work as well, knowing that we're financially supported, we're covered. And I think also having some clarity around how much money is truly enough is also a really big piece of that. Because if we've never clarified how much is truly enough, then we could be beyond that mark and not even know it. And we're still feeling like stressed and worried about money. So I think it's knowing your numbers, knowing your margins. Like we have to have like transparency with like what's actually happening, which can be very difficult for a lot of people, because if we don't know it, we don't have to like feel it or experience it. And so sometimes
Right.
like it's better not to know, like ignorance is bliss kind of thing. But I think if you're really here to create money security for yourself, like from the nervous system regulation place, like it all starts with an honest look at your numbers and how much is truly enough. And most people, they don't have the tools to really calculate how much is truly enough. And so I think that's step one, is like making sure that you have the financial tools to support you in getting the clarity that you need to begin with.
And how do we process, assuming that we know what that number is,
Mm-hmm.
how do we start working things forward when we are in a slow period?
Yes. So I think one, knowing what your enough number is. And I would say like another term for this might be like your minimum viable revenue, right? Like what's the bare amount of revenue that needs to come into the business for you to be okay? So we need to know what that number is first.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even advise like scaling that number down of like, what's the leanest number possible? Because when you're going through a really low cash revenue month, if you are a very, very far way away from the number that you need in order to be enough, right? Then that's going to create a lot more financial pressure and stress and anxiety for a lot of entrepreneurs. However, when we go to calculate our enough number, you would be amazed, or maybe you wouldn't be amazed, at just how easy it is for us to pad what enough really is, right? Well, I have to have that. I have to have that. I have to have that. It's like, but if push came to shove, like, could you do without it, right? So it's like knowing what that number is, which I think for a lot of people that feels like can kind of sort of feel like it's scarcity thinking. But the thing that I really want to invite you into is like when you know that number, that's the thing that's going to allow you to feel more plentiful with your cash flow once you're above that number. So that is really, really key. But when we have those numbers in mind, now we can say, okay, what's the easiest, most sustainable way for me to earn that revenue? And that's when we can start looking at how sustainable our price points are. Like, what do we have that we're offering? What price point does that need to be at for us to really generate that number as quickly and easily as possible? And that will also depend on what your strengths are in regards to marketing. You know, a lot of my clients really lean on relationships and reaching out to their network when things are tight, of like, hey, I'm looking for clients. Do you know anybody? I think connection is like one of the key variables there to help navigate a lower revenue month. But also not being afraid to make the ask, like put your work out there.
And that's so hard when things are hard because you already feel very demoralized. And so now it's, and I have to go ask for money. Are you kidding me right now?
Yes.
Let's talk about some strategies to work through that, because this isn't just about sales. This isn't just about mindset. This is very specifically about having a relationship with the money.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you brought up that demoralizing piece, because what's underneath that is shame, right? I shouldn't be in this situation. I'm a failure because I'm in
Mm.
this situation. Something's not working in my business and it's my fault kind of situation, right? And so one of the biggest tools and skills that any of us have at our disposal is the experience of objectivity with money. Because when things are not going according to plan, the online space in particular is so good about only showing the highlight reel, right? And that success attracts more success. And so when you're not feeling successful, you're like, how am I supposed to show up and market my business when things are actually like the struggle bus behind the scenes, right? So my best tip for that is I want you to take a step back and to see your business objectively. And instead of saying something's wrong with me, or I am failing, or my business is failing, like that's a very generalized statement versus saying this is a really hard month. Revenue's down this month. That's objective, right? You're staying with the facts. Yes, revenue is down. Sales have not been as great as they normally are. So that objectivity allows you to stay in what you're noticing in the facts, so you can proactively make strategic decisions from there. Because if we let the emotional piece lead, which doesn't mean that like we're bypassing the emotional experience, not at all, but if we're letting that lead, that's the thing that leads to that urgent, that desperation, that clinging, that grasping energy, right? That never feels good to sell from or to talk about your work from. And I know that everybody who's listening to this knows what I'm talking about, because it's like high stakes, right?
100% we have all been there. Right.
Yes. Yes. And so I think it's staying objective with the business while also like holding space for your own emotional experience of, because what's coming up is fear. I'm afraid, I don't know how long this dip in revenue is going to last, right? What happened? So then our brain starts saying, well, what if this is happening next month and the next month and the next month? And you're like, but we're only in this month. And so it's all of those inner tools of like, how do we stay present? How do we not let that fear start to like take over? Because the what ifs will take you out quicker than anything, you know? And so what ifs are just our brain's way of being creative. What if, blah, blah, blah. And if you're on a catastrophizing train, those what ifs are going to play out all kinds of fun scenarios of like, oh my God, like what happens if this? But we can also play the what ifs to our favor. What if the next opportunity
Yes.
is on its way? What if the next client is on its way? Like that's going to help balance out some of those other what ifs that are also going to further like be demoralizing for a lot of us, you know, because it's like, what if I'm stuck here? What if this is forever? It's like, let's just stay with what's happening right here, right now.
Being present is
Mm-hmm.
very important here and very difficult to do. Do you have suggestions for staying in the present?
I mean, so many. I think this is going to depend on how your brain processes presence. So, for instance, people with very busy brains, meditation might not be your favorite thing because it might create more anxiety for you, because you'll notice, like, wow, my thoughts are really fast. There's a lot going on up there. But for me, like, I'm a walker. So I like to burn out anxious thoughts, any fears, because I'm doing something, I'm moving something. If I try and sit and just, try and go to this place of transcendental bliss, my brain is like, this does not feel very functional for me. But if I can walk and I can think and I can be out in nature, that starts to help me like attune to the present moment of like, okay. And then it's the self-talk, right? What's the story I'm telling myself about this right now? What part of that story is true? What part of that story is not true? And here's the other thing that shows up with money work. What part of this story is about money? And what part of it is about something that's completely different? Meaning, I'm afraid that people don't like my work. That is not a money story. That is a worthiness story, right? That's an acceptance story. But the thing that we do is we combine all of these things together with money and we project it onto money, right? And so that starts to put a lot of pressure on the money piece when it's like, actually, if we were to focus on this other belief over here, being grounded in the value of your work, for instance, being grounded in all of the testimonials you have from delivering your work to people who absolutely adore you and the work that you're doing, like that's going to help shift that belief part of it versus focusing on like the money piece, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I find so often that what actually needs to happen is to step away, have a snack, take a nap, take
Yes.
a walk,
Yes.
do something else entirely
Yes.
than worry about the money.
Yes. I mean, worrying about money is not going to get you anywhere. It's not. But I think a lot of us are, especially like when we have a lot of anxiety around money, it's like, but I need to be worried about it. It's like, that's not going to change anything that's happening with your money. But shifting gears, shifting your environment, shifting your mindset, shifting your energy, that's the thing that's going to allow you to come back to it and also feel a lot more grounded. Because I think a lot of times when we're going through a lower revenue month, there are higher financial needs, right? You're very aware that there are higher financial needs and you're not sure how those needs are going to be met in the business. There's a big question mark, right? And so, of course, it's going to create stress and anxiety. However, you focusing on the stress and the anxiety versus like the proactive action that your business needs you to take. If we were to focus on the proactive action, reaching out to our community, putting out a post, whatever that looks like for you, right? That's going to help you feel a lot more in control of the situation, even though there's so many other variables that are still out of your control, right? But you can only do what is in your power to do when it comes to generating more revenue.
Hmm. And I find so often the answer is to do the thing, check it off the list, and then go do something else entirely, which is very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think, I mean, having a revenue plan is also really helpful too when it comes to managing anxiety and stress. And so if you know, and I think also knowing when you're getting ready to head into a lower revenue month can also be helpful because if we're tracking our money, we're tracking our payment plans, for instance, like we will know when certain payment plans are completing, for example, and when there's going to be a gap in revenue that we need to have a solution for. So if you already know that that's coming, then you can be a little bit more proactive with what needs to happen for that dip to not be felt as much. But when it's the unexpected dips in revenue that we're having to figure out, it's like, okay, so what's the revenue plan for this month? How much of a gap is there? And how are we going to close that gap? What are we selling? How much are we selling? What price point are we selling that at? And then putting all of your marketing energy in that direction. And I think a lot of times when we go into a lower revenue month, we get into that place of scattered where it's like, I'm going to sell anything that anybody will buy. And that never feels like we're making like the highest decision for ourselves. We're just like selling ourselves off in a sense, when we start doing that versus really thinking about, hey, what's the strategic revenue plan here? What are we doing? Where are we going to focus our direction, our energy?
So let's talk about how to build a strategic plan here with our money. How do we do
Yes.
that, Megan?
Yes. So I think everyone should have a revenue plan that brings all of your offers all together, all of your price points, all of those things. So when you're going into a lower revenue month or you find yourself in a lower revenue month, you can look at your offer suite and say, okay, what makes the most sense for me to sell? Because what a lot of people will do is that they'll start cutting their prices if something's not selling. They'll start adding more onto the offer. So now they're charging less and delivering more. Okay. Those are those two decisions that a lot of us make when we're making a long-term decision for like a short-term experience. And so what I want to encourage everybody to do is like really play the tape. Play the tape. So if the thing that you're selling right now can generate the money that you need, let's make sure that you're not delivering it for months and months and months, like over delivering it for months and months and months, where that's not going to be sustainable in the long run. So I think it's getting really clear on like what's the solution right now, but how does that look a few months from now if the thing that I'm selling, I'm still delivering on.
Right. Time horizons
Mm-hmm.
are something that we often neglect to account for, I
Mm-hmm.
think, when we are desperate in particular.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And so I think it's like it could be a short-term solution, but long-term, it's not going to feel how you want it to feel. Put it that way.
So then we have to structure things knowing what that looks like, and that means we have to be able to work it backwards.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, for me, I mean, every business owner is going to be different, but if I go into a lower revenue month, I'm likely to focus on my highest ticket offer because that's going to require the fewest amount of sales in order for me to create sustainable cash flow. So that's the decision that I usually make when I go into a period like that. For other people, though, it depends on your audience size. If you have a huge audience, then it might make more sense to go lower ticket and make the bet on volume of sales, right? So I think we have to look at what are the strengths and the assets that we have in our business and what's going to make the most sense for us to close this revenue gap based on what we have. And also what we think is going to be successful.
hmm But that requires defining what you're selling and defining what your assets are and
Mm-hmm.
knowing what those things are ahead of time so
Yes.
that you aren't just trying to throw something together at the very last minute.
Yes. And like, I'm so glad you brought that up because the other thing that a lot of us do is we create brand new offers,
hmm
which means that depending on how your offers run, means that there's going to be content that you actually have to create for this particular offer. So you're now adding even more work to your plate versus selling something that already exists. So that's my other thing is like, what can we repurpose that already exists that's going to be the lightest lift for you in order to generate sales. So when we're in that tough spot, knowing your assets, one, knowing your offers, two, knowing your minimum viable revenue. Literally, this is the most important number that every single entrepreneur needs to have, every single one of us. And then knowing where you're going to focus your time, energy in order to close that revenue gap. What is the game plan? How many sales need to be made for this particular offer? And how can you either work your network, right? Leverage your audience to help generate those sales. I will share this. Remember when the pandemic started in like March 2020, right?
hmm
One of the first things that I had all of my clients do is to scale everything down to their minimum viable revenue number. Because I didn't know what this was going to look like. None of us knew what it was going to look like. Like if things go really, really bad here, what's the minimum viable number that we need to be focused on for your monthly number? That number offered so much relief and clarity of like, okay, I know what I'm working with here. I know like bare minimum what I need to be making to be okay. That's the thing, like beyond abundance, most of us want to know that we're okay. And if we can be in this place that's okay, that's the thing that opens us up to generating more abundance. But it's something that's so overlooked for so many entrepreneurs. Like all the time, people are like, I want to get to these big, dreamy, dreamy, dreamy dreams. I'm like, are your basic financial needs met right now? Because if not, like, we need to do that first, because that's going to be foundation for a sustainable cash flow in your business. And that is also going to regulate your nervous system. So you can create from a place of discernment versus urgency. And I think a lot of us, we're so used to running around with like our hair on fire, right? Like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? It's like, if we can create stability, that's not how you will be making decisions moving forward. And it's a very different energetic shift, which is one of my biggest goals for my people. When we can make decisions from that place of like, I'm okay. Nothing has to happen this next month, right? And then if something does happen that next month, we have a game plan for what to do in that situation.
Okay. So I think I did this backwards because I know you so well, but please, for the folks at home, how did you come here to this place, and why is the money piece so important to you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for my whole life, like, money has felt hard, overwhelming, scary, something that made me feel guilty because I was never earning enough, something that made me feel ashamed because I wanted money. And that was not something that was socially acceptable in my upbringing. So I had a lot of money stuff. And when I became an entrepreneur, all the money stuff became even more pronounced. I'm like, I think I might need to figure out how to shift how I'm thinking about money, relating to money, and even how to master my money. I had no money skills whatsoever. And as we know, like, money is the air our businesses need to breathe. Like, we have to figure out the money stuff if we're going to be financially supported by our businesses as a step one. But if we're going to step into financial abundance and like funding all kinds of dreamy dreams, like, all of that is really, really important. And so I did a lot of money work, a lot of inner money work, and none of it was actually shifting my bank account. And I think for many people who, they don't shy away from the inner work, like, you tell them, like, we need to heal some money stories, game on. We're going to go and we're going to heal the money stories. We're going to look at our transgenerational money story. We're going to do like all of our, or do an inventory of our financial mistakes and our financial traumas and like all of that stuff, like, game on. But you go and do that and you realize that that doesn't necessarily translate into more earning in your business. That piece comes from the strategy and the structure and your marketing and your systems and all of those other pieces. And so when I realized that, I was in a very, very difficult situation in my personal life. I was getting ready to have a second baby and have two under two. My partner was deploying for 6 months, 3 weeks after we had him. And things were also starting to build in my business that year. And the last thing that I wanted to do was to take the foot off the gas, because I knew that that wasn't the right decision. But I knew that me moving forward was going to have to look radically different with everything else that I was holding. And so that is when I got radically clear on, like, how much money do I need to generate this next year to feel okay? Just okay. We're not going after any shiny carrots. Like, I just want stability. Okay. And that led me to calculating a very specific number for myself that I had never seen before. Up until that point, I had been pursuing 6 figures or like some random number, right? Like, 6 figures is not even a number. What is that? 100K? Is that 105K? Is it whatever?
Man,
What is that?
so much truth to that. Every time I hear people talk about 6 figures, I'm like, it may as well be 6 figures of beef for all that
Yes.
that means anything.
Yes. And so seeing this number for the very first time, and I forget like the exact number now. I want to say it was like 96,384. Like, it was a very, very specific number based on my financial needs, right? And I was like, that's so interesting, because my definition, my personal definition of financial stability, like, it's close to 6 figures, but it's not 6 figures. It's a very specific, custom to me number. And for some reason, that was like a light switch in me of like, whoa, I've been pursuing somebody else's version of financial success. So we're not going to do that anymore. But 2, I needed a way to calculate, like, okay, what do these numbers look like for me? Like, here's my okay number. That's minimum viable revenue to feel like stability, right? But then what if I did want to be ballsy and step into some financial dreams, like, on top of this next year? What would that look like? And so what I ended up creating is this good, better, best calculator that's now called the DreamMoney calculator that really helps you know, like down to the dollar, exactly how much you need to earn in order to create financial stability for yourself, but then to also fund additional dreams. And so that was foundational for me realizing this is how much money I need to generate. Now, how am I going to generate it? Right. And that's when these rest of these financial planning tools were born of let's map out the business that can actually take us there in the most sustainable way possible. And so that was a life-shifting year for me. Not only did I double my revenue working half the time while I was holding all of the 2 under 2 and breastfeeding while my partner was away, like, all the things that radically shifted my brain chemistry. Like that was a life-shifting year for me. But that's also when so much money healing work happened for me too, because I had stable cash flow for the first time ever in my business. And that's when I really started to build a lot more nervous system regulation around money and just so many huge ahas. And so I think for me, earning more in your business is healing. And that's the thing that I want to invite everybody into. But the way that we earn more money is we have to have financial clarity first, because that informs so much of sustainable price points, sales goals, like every single thing. Like we cannot create a business plan if we do not know what we are selling, how much of it that we're selling, right? Because that's going to inform your audience growth and your strategy for building on, like literally everything moves from here. So having a money first approach to business growth is like, that's the thing. Because when we can really get clear on the financial pieces and we have a framework for regulating ourselves around money, there is nothing that you cannot do. Like if you can choose what making money means, what holding money means, what giving money means, what wanting money means, right? If you can own what that means to you, literally, there's nothing that you can't redefine for yourself. So that's my journey into this work. I never in a million years thought that money would be the thing that I'm helping other people with, because it was so hard and heavy and complicated for me. Like me and money had a complicated relationship for the grand majority of my life, but really developing the financial tools that I needed, developing a financial business plan that showed me the way that I knew now, like where to focus my time and energy and what I was trying to create. And then having these financial practices that was helping me regulate my nervous system around this, like that radically shifted my life. And that's what I want to help other people do too.
And DreamMoney does that how?
So many ways. So DreamMoney is the new name of my brand after going through a major trademark issue earlier this year, where literally I was in no brand land for 6 months. But DreamMoney came through to really invite others to creating money that is deliberate, meaning it's honoring of your time and your energy, and you're really deliberate with how you're making it. It's also reliable because we're talking about recurring revenue in your business. It's also easeful because we're building in money systems that make money clear and calm and organized, which I'm so big on. It's also stepping into abundant money, where we are really focused on not just an abundant mindset, but how do we really take a holistic approach to understanding our financial needs. So when we're pricing our offers based on like all of these things that are now funded and met, and then also money that's meaningful. I'm so big on having a relationship with money that your numbers mean something to you. They're not just random pulled from the sky. They're not somebody else's numbers. They're your numbers. There's also a give back that I'm really big on helping other people step into, because that allows your money to have a larger meaning in the world, a larger purpose. And that is really, really rad. So DreamMoney is really here to provide financial tools, financial framework, and financial practices so you can step into DreamMoney. And the way that we do that primarily right now in this version is with the DreamMoney Blueprint, which is the complete holistic financial system that brings all of these powerful tools together. And that's what I'm inviting people into right now, with helping me raise some capital to build my DreamMoney app, which that will be the next iteration. But I want these financial tools in the hands of entrepreneurs who need them right now. And so the DreamMoney Blueprint is $997. And it also comes with a 90-day program with me, as we're going to focus on those 3 key pieces of what are the financial tools that you need to get the financial clarity that you need. What's the financial framework for starting to map out the business that can earn the amount of revenue that you want to earn. And then also building in the financial practices so we start to regulate ourselves around money. This is the work that radically shifts the way money feels in your life and your business.
I can't remember how many years now that I have been using this calculator, but it's been a long time now. It's
I
really been
know.
very foundational for me.
Yeah.
And I really hope that people take a look. Um, the link is briarharvey.com/dreammoney. That's my affiliate link. And Megan, what's coming?
Yes. So I've had on my heart for the longest time to build a financial app that not only provides like the financial tools that every entrepreneur needs to make high level financial decisions on their business, but also integrates the accountability for meeting with your money consistently, because the intimacy that we can build between our numbers and our margins and our dreams, that's the thing that creates that nervous system regulation where we start to build a lot more confidence. And so the Dream Money app is going to be bringing all of those things together while also integrating some really cool financial reporting features. So you always know exactly how much money is set to come into your business for whatever time frame you want to look at. We're also going to be integrating some monthly financial reports for you, showing you what happened in your business, kind of like your business's money story on a monthly basis. We'll show you how many times you've met with your money, if that's something that you are tracking. We will also show you what offers perform the best for you based on how much money came in. We'll also celebrate you if you reach your good, better, or best goal. So there'll be some live confetti. And then we'll also do some yearly financial reporting as well. So you know exactly how you managed your money on the back end. Because the Dream Money Blueprint, like, yes, it's a revenue planner, but it's also a money tracker. And so we will be tracking where all of your money went every single month. And that is highly, highly valuable information as you're growing your business. And especially if you're starting to talk to a CFO, or you're talking to a financial planner, or you're talking to an accountant, or whoever else is on your financial team, because they'll be able to see, like, what were your decisions there? Like, where did this money go? And you'll be able, or how much did you spend in this structure? Like, you'll have all of those numbers there. So not that I'm trying to replace a CFO. That's not my intention at all. However, I want every entrepreneur to be able to have really confident discussions with their financial team by knowing your numbers intimately. And so that's what the app is going to be bringing to the market. And I'm so excited for entrepreneurs to have this financial clarity and these tools, this community, these practices, like all of it, all in one place.
I think that's a big part of it for me because I have an accountant because I don't touch my own money. And also, this way, I do have an overview of what's going on. I
Yes.
feel like I know enough to be able to say, oh, hey, this is where we're at right now. And
Yes.
that's so important. So, so important.
Yes, 100%. Especially like if you could set a little alarm, like when a payment plan ends, like, hey, next month you're going to have expected lower revenue, right? And so even just having that clarity feeds so well into the conversation that we're having right now. It's like, but we can know that there's going to be some plan dips just on how you're structuring your money, how your business is structured, right? So the more we know, the more we're able to like make those proactive decisions for ourselves and our company. So I'm really excited about the app. But in order to build the app, we got to raise a shit ton of money. So
Yes, indeed.
in order to raise the money, I'm selling the current Dream Money Blueprint as it is, which is all built on Google Sheets right now. And there are beautiful spreadsheets. So people call me the spreadsheet whisperer. So if you don't like
Indeed.
spreadsheets, I promise to help you love them. So we're selling the Dream Money Blueprint for $9.97. That comes with a 90-day program with me. Or if you just want to get clarity on your revenue goals, you can also purchase just the Dream Money Calculator, and that'll help you calculate your good, better, and best goals based on your financial needs and dreams. And that's only $247. So super accessible price point. I firmly believe every single entrepreneur needs to know these revenue numbers. Like that's where everything moves from. So if you would love to support me on this launch, I would love to see you inside the 90-day program, getting the full Dream Money blueprint integrated into your business. It becomes the financial hub for where you will make every single financial decision. Or if you just want to start with the Dream Money calculator, please take that next step, because these numbers, especially the way that I introduce it, because we're going to talk about your transgenerational money story. We'll talk about some of the inner money stuff while we're actually doing the numbers and the margins. Okay. So highly, highly recommend getting the calculator to start. And you can always upgrade to the full Dream Money blueprint if you want to.
I'm so excited for you. This is so
Thank you.
delightful. This is absolutely not where you were 5 years ago, and it's just been such a delight to see
I
this
know.
grow and evolve and change, and it's just going to be so great.
I am so
So
excited. I never in a million years thought, like, I remember the first time you came through what is now the Dream Money blueprint. Like that was in 2019. Like that was years ago in internet land. And
yeah.
now to know that like this tool has already touched hundreds of entrepreneurs and helped them build money mastery, money confidence, and really define money on their own terms. And that's literally just the start. Now we get to go so much bigger with this launch, especially building the app. So I appreciate you so much for being one of my early adopters. Like that means the world to me. And you're also my first live as we talk about this Dream Money launch. So
Yay.
special. I
Fly.
saw that fly.
And terrible. Oh,
Flies in
Megan,
Nebraska. I'm telling you.
man, it's September, so we've only got what, 3 more weeks until
We
it's
don't have
winter time
mosquitoes, but we
here.
have flies. We have so many flies, y'all, and we have spiders and flies in Nebraska. I'm like, what the
Spiders
hell?
and flies.
But I'll take them any day over mosquitoes in the South.
Oh my goodness, yes. All right, y'all. Thank you for being here today. We are growing and improving your business and your life one idea at a time. And that's what the Voices of Neurodiversity is about, and how we manage to grow together and do these things in community, because that's really what this is about. You can't do this alone. So take the tools that work for you, take the ones that light you up inside, and leave the rest. And if this one does it for you, again, that link is briarharvey.com/dreammoney. And we will see you next time. Thank you for being here. Have an amazing day, y'all.